Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We take a few minutes on a Wednesday and give us a little shot to get through the rest of the week. Give us a little bit of spiritual influence in our life, and just carve out a few minutes to gather together. So welcome. So glad you're here, hanging out with us tonight. I know that these times are valuable, both for me. I know they're valuable for you, and anybody that you want to bring along the way. As just one more way, in the middle of this time where we can't meet in person yet, we want, as a church, we care so much about your spiritual growth. We want to consistently offer some things to challenge and push us in that area of our life. Okay, so this is so very important. I'm so glad that you're hanging out with us, however you may be watching. Okay, so you're welcome to be here, and we're glad you're here. What we've been doing is we've been doing these little, what we've been calling these little 10-minute character studies, 10-minute-ish. Okay, I'm a pastor, so there's always got to be a ish in case we go a little bit longer than that. But that's the goal. They're very practical stories of hope and stories of people who God worked through and how he worked in their life. And the whole idea is to see, how did he work in their life? How did he work in his life or her life? So I can get a picture of how he could work in mine, because God is working in your life and wants to continue to. And so we can position ourselves best for that. That's what these stories are all about. Now, today we're going to look at a really unique story in the Bible of a woman who had tremendous influence in the region she was in. She steps into a very important leadership role in the context of of the nation she lived in, the nation of Israel. We find it's in the book of Judges. It's in the Old Testament. It's a time period, a unique moment in the nation of Israel's history where some people stepped forward and led in some really cool and unique ways. And the story we're going to look at today is Deborah. And Deborah is this story of an unexpected way God works. That God specializes in the unexpected, how we think things typically would be or should be. God comes along and uses somebody we didn't imagine, or does something we couldn't imagine, or somehow works in that scenario in ways that we couldn't imagine. So the context of what we're going to find in Judges is the nation of Israel. Okay, now Moses had been leading these people. Moses passes away. Joshua steps in and he leads these people. He followed Moses' leadership, and as the leader, he marches them through these unbelievable scenarios. And when Joshua passes away, there is this time that judges ruled the nation. It was a time before God allowed them to have a king. One of those judges was a woman named Deborah. So Deborah is a judge at this time. People came to her for judgment, for specific help in certain circumstances. Now, here's what we have to understand. During the time that we're going to look at here for a second, the people of Israel had turned away from God. Okay? They turned their backs on God. It doesn't really make sense, because you think about how faithful God had been to them. Think about this. He led them across this Jordan River, this powerful river, safely, and showed his faithfulness there and his goodness. And he led them to defeat this great city of Jericho in this crazy way. That's not this story tonight, but we'll get to that another time. He literally caused the sun to stand still to show himself strong in their life. God, time and time again, provided. He had promised them this land, and he led them to it. And so he was always there. He always provided, but they still turned away from him. You know what? You and I, we can do that sometimes too. But something unexpected happens. Okay? Judges chapter 2, verse 11. Here's what we find. This is the description of the people of Israel at the time that we see Deborah being a judge. The people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and served the images of Baal. So you've got this whole nation who God has led out of this captivity, who God has led through this wilderness, who God has led again in these remarkable ways, and all of a sudden, time and time again, they find themselves drifting away from God. Like it's almost like his faithfulness didn't count; it doesn't matter anymore after a certain point. And you read the story, and you're like, how in the world could that be happening? But it does, and like I said, you and I, we can be guilty of the same thing. Sometimes we do some things and people might look at us sideways like, what are they thinking? Well, we could be saying that about the nation of Israel. And it's important for us to understand what's happening here, because God is about to do something unexpected. And throughout history, we see God's interaction with people being story after story after story of God doing something unexpected in people and through people. Now, maybe you've got a story of God doing something unexpected in your life. Maybe it was the meeting of a need. Maybe it was him using you to witness to a friend. Maybe it was you got to serve somebody well, or you got to share your testimony, or maybe even you went through a hard circumstance that God allowed you to then help somebody else who was going through the exact same thing. God does unexpected things all the time. I can remember very quickly a time we lived in Springfield, Missouri. I had the privilege to work on campus at Baptist Bible College and lived on campus. And I remember one night getting a phone call at about midnight that somebody had come through our campus, lost control of their vehicle, and hit my truck. I had a little Toyota Tacoma pickup truck, and man, it smashed that thing. I walked outside, kind of wiping the sleep out of my eyes, and it was well after midnight, and there's flashing police lights everywhere, and my truck is sitting on top of the car that was parked behind it. And then there's a car that's sideways. You could see the bottom of a Ford Bronco. Was guy had lost control, had a little too much to drink that night, and he hit my car, and it totaled our truck. And we'd had two vehicles. That was the more dependable one. And you know, at the surface, I look at that circumstance, I'm like, God, what are you doing? What's going on here? Long story short is God used that to allow us to get a way more reliable vehicle that we wouldn't have been able to get anywhere else, any other way. And so God did an unexpected thing that we weren't even ready for then. And what he's about to do right here is an unexpected thing as well. And God surprises people all throughout history. Surprised Noah when he told him about a flood, right? Noah wasn't expecting that. Surprised Abraham when he told him he would be the father of a nation, even when he didn't have a child. And Joseph being sold into slavery by the very brothers he was then going to forgive a long time and become the second in command of Egypt. And when Moses, who was timid and had a stuttering problem, God says, I want to use you to lead this whole nation. And David gets victory over Goliath. And we would look at all these stories and we would say surprise after surprise after surprise. Now, here's a couple things to remember. Deborah was an unexpected leader. You see, she lived at a time where women had few rights, but she was a judge of Israel. People came to her for help, for judgment in disputes and judgment in circumstances. The Bible also says she was a prophet, that she spoke a message from God. And in this story, she gives a specific message to a specific person about going into battle against their oppressors. She goes to someone named Barak, and she says, okay, you need to get 10,000 soldiers and go to this specific place by this specific river. Now, what this soldier knows is that I'm going to face this group of people. I might have 10,000 soldiers, but they have 900 iron chariots, and they have trained foot soldiers that outnumber us, and I don't know if we can do this. As a matter of fact, he gets fearful. He gets scared. And it's interesting. What we find is what he says to her is, hey, I'm going to go if you go with me, but I'm not going to go. If you're not going with me, I'm not going either. So there's this setup for God to do something amazing, and God does intervene in an unexpected way. God's creativity is on display here. He has used so many things throughout history up to this point, and he does something amazing even what happens here. Look at what this verse says. It's Judges 5:20 and 21. It says this, from heaven the stars fought, from their courses they fought against Sisera. The torrent Kishon, the Kishon River is where they went to, swept them away. The ancient torrent, the torrent Kishon, march on my soul with might. You know what happened? These 10,000 soldiers show up at the Kishon River in this battleground right near the river. And God sends, because they're outnumbered, 10,000 against 900 chariots plus all these trained foot soldiers. God sends a flash flood. Judges 5:20 describe the heavens breaking open and then it floods out. You know what iron chariots are no good in? Flood and muddy riverbanks. So they get bogged down and they can't fight and they can't respond like they want to either. That God does something unbelievable in that circumstance. I know we're doing a quick flyby, but man, let that settle into your heart. That God does something unexpected through Deborah. And the way she led made a big, big, big difference. Now, a couple of lessons that we can learn from her life real quick. Here's the deal. Don't refuse God's plan or he may use somebody else. You see, Barak said, I don't want to go. I'm only going if you go. And he had this chance to lead, but he didn't do it. So God used her to step. If you read the story, it's Judges 4 and 5. And she's the one who says, get up, everybody, we're going. It's time. God's going to do something for us. She leads. So the point is this, that God's will is going to be done. And I don't know about you, but I want to be a part of it. And if I'm not faithful to what God calls me to, I might not get a chance to experience what he's doing. He's going to do it. I just want to be a part of it. So don't refuse God's plan in your life. Don't refuse that. Step into whatever he's asking you to do. Also this, don't put limitations on people when God doesn't. You see, people would have put a limitation on Deborah, partly because of the culture and the way it worked with valuing men versus valuing women, but that didn't limit her. She didn't let the limitations of other people even stop her from being used by God. And here's what I want to encourage you. You don't either. Don't let the limitations that other people might be trying to put on you get in your mind thinking that God can't use you. Okay? Here's the deal also. When godly leaders obey God's call, people are blessed. Other people get impacted when you are faithful. You see, Deborah's leadership and faithfulness led to 40 years of peace for the Israelites. Just because she was faithful. Can you imagine what your faithfulness will do? What if, like Deborah, we said this, as Judges 5, verse 2. The leaders took the lead in Israel. The people offered themselves willingly. Bless the Lord. What if you just simply say, God, I don't know what I bring to the table, but I know you got all of me. So I'm here to say, I'm offering myself willingly to you. Do the unexpected through me. Use me in ways that I can't imagine. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm asking you to use me in ways that are special. Do you believe God can do something unexpected in your life? Do you believe God wants to do something unexpected through your life? Do you realize how much your faithfulness impacts other people? Are you willing, and are you putting limitations on God? Hey, my challenge is don't do that. All right, let's be people who say, God, you do whatever you want through me. Just like Deborah, I'll be willing no matter what. Hey, I want to invite you to join us on Sundays. Facebook, we have our services at 9:30 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. Please join us with those. You can also view on YouTube on demand at 9:30 a.m., Instagram TV at 9:30 a.m. as well. Go to our website, hccmidland.com. Hey, when you get to our Facebook page, like our church Facebook page so you can be updated with all the stuff we have going on. All right, you're invited. We'd love to be able to see you there. Hope you have a great rest of your evening.